Dear viewer, good evening and welcome to Spotlight. With me tonight, the Chief Police of West Bloomfield, Mr. Michael Patton. Mr. Patton, welcome again to MEA.
Thank you.
You've been with us so many times, and you've become a very good friend of the community. And I saw you in many events in the community, mingling around, trying to understand their issue and all that. Tell me, in West Bloomfield, what's the percentage of the Middle Eastern community living in that?
Well, we actually, I think you know this because you lived there for so many,
35 years.
Most of your probably adult life. That it's a very diverse community in West Bloomfield, and we actually promote that diversity. I think you're aware of this too, because I always make it a point to invite you to all of our events in West Bloomfield because you're always such a gracious host in return. But West Bloomfield is one of the handful of communities in the state of Michigan that's recognized as a welcoming community. Absolutely. Where we advertise and promote that we invite everyone from everywhere to come and live and work in West Bloomfield, to go to school there, to open their businesses there, and to raise their families and to prosper in West Bloomfield. And we're very proud of that fact that we are so open and transparent and welcoming to everyone from every place from there.
But the Middle Eastern have a good percentage.
A large number of Chaldeans, a large number of other Arab Americans make their home there, and some of their businesses are also there.
I see. Let's talk about the COVID. We talk about the census, and I know you are hiring, and we'll come to that. Talking about the COVID, what I understand, the percentage of the Middle Eastern community, especially the Chaldean, are very high getting the COVID. Can you give me an idea how high was the percentage, and what the police department doing to educate the community?
Well, I think what we've realized here as the whole world has been attempting to address this COVID-19 pandemic, that there's no community, no city, no zip code, no religion, no ethnicity that is immune from this, tragic disease.
Yes.
So in West Bloomfield, we've actually had a large number of cases, particularly in our south end. As a matter of fact, we look at some of the metrics and databases out there that Oakland County puts out, that the south zip code in West Bloomfield is consistently, for the duration of the pandemic, been like the second or third highest death rate. Now, that's primarily probably attributed to the large number of senior homes that we have in the township, senior housing. But again, a large number of deaths. I used to comment, obviously there's many concerns, and just we are so focused on COVID-19 right now that we sometimes almost forget to talk about other concerns. But I used to make presentations that you were attending also about people that were overdosing on heroin and in those kind of cases. And I used to make a point of saying, next to people dying in the community from natural old age and old age related things, that the second highest cause of death in the community was related to heroin overdoses and fentanyl overdoses, because it was right up there and there's so many of them. Well, now obviously the COVID pandemic has eclipsed even that number. So we probably have had 140 to 150 deaths just in West Bloomfield that have been attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic.
And Henry Ford, we did an interview with the president, and he mentioned there's over 80% of major, situation in COVID, they tell you. And that's, we have to put a stop to that.
Well, again, no community is immune for that, but because we have such a large number of Chaldean and Arab residents in our township, they are significantly impacted by that. We're very fortunate to have Henry Ford, West Bloomfield, that complex there. And I'm going to be attending an event there tomorrow. And again, this is one of the few times I didn't come out of the office now to meet with you because it's that important to me. We're going to Henry Ford for a presentation tomorrow. But they are really one of our heroes in the community for all the things that they did. We look at all the things that they had to do to address that pandemic, and all the times that we and the West Bloomfield Fire Department were taking patients over there, and how difficult that was, and how everyone needed to be protective, and we're all wearing our masks all the time and other personal protection equipment. That really Henry Ford did a really remarkable job in the community.
Chief, that the COVID and people with a lot of stress, with a lot of mental health, is the crime in this time is increasing or decreasing? As you mentioned, probably people are using more drugs because they are home and all that. The crime level, is it increasing or decreasing?
It's an interesting question. When the pandemic, the first couple months of the pandemic, maybe up to about the middle of the year, our actual crime numbers and our calls for service, the number of times people were actually calling the police asking for something, went down. I mean, it went down significantly. So that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Remember how empty the streets were, people were really locked down. It's like, it was like that call-wise. Now, what we did see, people start staying in the homes together. What do you see an increase in? Domestic sometimes, frauds, mental health issues.
Yes.
And that's a significant thing. We think about just the disease, how it impacts our bodies, but the other things related to lockdowns and people losing their jobs and all those stresses in the society that we're experiencing right now, we saw an increase in that. So we saw an increase in our mental health calls, our domestic violence calls, a number of frauds, being perpetuated by people in the community. So probably right now we're back up to our pre-COVID calls for service, which covers the whole wide gamut of everything from criminal property crimes to assaultive type crimes. You know this because you've lived in West Bloomfield for so many years, that no community is crime free, but we have very low crime numbers.
Yes.
And very little violent crime in West Bloomfield.
And that's contribute to excellent relation between the police department and the communities and the whole community we're talking in West Bloomfield. And honestly, there was a study by Hartford and other institutes saying the lockdown is gonna affect more crime and more death to the people than the COVID itself.
Well, I think that may be an unfortunate reality. I think time will tell that, but it's somewhat predictable that those outcomes will, again, without not putting any blame up, because we put a lot of trust and confidence in our organizational leadership, our governmental leadership.
Yes.
But I think time will tell whether or not the effects of the lockdown, the impacts it had on, the indirect effects that it had on people's lives due to mental health issues, or them not seeking medical treatment as often as they would have, undiagnosed cancers,
Many of them, they're not going to the
or
hospital.
childhood
And they
immunizations.
have that.
All those kind of things. You hear a lot of more and more talk about that. We're so focused on COVID-19, which is important, which is very important because it's taking still a number of lives in our communities and in our state. But we're also seeing that these other side effects, more crime in some areas, more concerns about domestics and mental health issues, potentially suicides, those kind of things. Those will always have more of an impact. So I think one day, when this pandemic is primarily behind us, and we're not still,
Hopefully soon.
that we'll realize that there's always going to be would have, could have, should have's in any kind of thing that you're doing. And you look back one day, and it's a good thing to look back and say, okay, we could have done this better, we should have done this differently, and that's a healthy process.
Great. The census, we have the land of October, and I know every city, they trying to get the people to fill out, because it's going to depend a lot on the benefit, the money we're getting from the federal government. Is that if it's a school, if it's the road, if it's many things. You with the township, are you working together to get everybody, encourage everybody to fill up the form and send it?
Well, we don't have an active role in. That's a federal function.
Yes.
That those are that. But we have a vested local interest in that. To have all of our residents counted is important to us. It helps with how we get represented in our government. It also helps with federal funding that comes into the township.
Absolutely.
So that's very important. So yes, what we help is we advertise and promote and remind people, participate in the census. Go online and fill out the forms. If a census worker eventually comes to your door, please answer it and cooperate in the census, because undercounts don't help. We want our we want our representation in government. We want our federal funding and all that. Something every 10 years it comes up, and it's a big push. Make sure you participate in the census, and we're doing so well. West Bloomfield is doing real well. Is it ever 100%? No, but the closer we get to 100%, the better for everybody.
As law enforcement, and this is very important questions to many people. When he fill up the form and put the information. If that information, it affects his situation, if he's, for example, illegal, or he is taken from the welfare, or he have probably some kind of crime, he done, or, he hiding himself. Is this information gonna go to law enforcement or to other federal agencies?
No. All the information by law is protected by the census laws that apply to the census. It's really a head count. We want to know how many people are living in your home and in my home, and the more accurately that we present those things. I know there's a lot of side issues, a couple questions and things like that occasionally make people uncomfortable.
Yes.
But whether you're here legally, illegally, whether you're wanted for a crime or something like that, just answer the questions. The Chief Pattons of the world are never going to see that information. We don't use it for tracking people.
Or any other federal agency.
Correct. It's my understanding. So
yes.
Correct. So
let's talk about, I know you've been hiring, and I know honestly, Chief Patton, you've been very close to the whole community, and especially the Middle Eastern, the Jewish community, and other, ethnic minorities, and you try to reflect your office, the community. So tell me about the hiring, and do you have, for example, a Middle Eastern officers in your department?
We have a number of Chaldean officers. Look, I've been a police officer for 35 years. I've been the chief for 10. And you go back a number of decades, and the attitudes in law enforcement and the law enforcement leadership are different than they are now. And I can remember probably a few generations in law enforcement ago, the idea of hiring people who were minorities or minority communities, or were even immigrants from another country that are now, part of our American experience, that put a lot of few people off, and they weren't probably as welcome as they should have been. Now we look at it as totally different. Before they would look at it as somehow, weakening the gene pool or the professionalism of law enforcement. Nowadays we look at it as like it enriches us, it makes us better, stronger, more reactive to the interests of the communities. So yes, we're always looking to hire people from very diverse backgrounds. One of the questions we even ask people during the hiring process is like, do you speak any languages other than, because we service a very diverse
We need
community.
people to understand different culture. And,
Correct. So all of that makes us a better, healthier, more robust, more reactive and responsive to the people that we serve. So yes, we're always recruiting, which is, I always appreciate the opportunity. You're one of the few people that when we do hiring processes, I send things out because I know that you'll help disseminate that within the community.
This is our job.
That your viewership to do that, because these are good jobs.
Yes.
There's a lot of employment. It's tough to be a police officer nowadays. You see a lot of discussion and a lot of concerns, being expressed towards law enforcement, and some of those concerns are, have some, validity to them. Not all of them, but some of them do. And so it's tough, and sometimes that hurts the recruiting effort.
Yes.
Because people look into that. One of the questions when they eventually meet the applicants, they have their meet the chief time. I ask them a lot of questions, because if they're not a good fit for law enforcement, or they're not a good fit for our organization. But one of the questions I ask them, have any of their family or friends try to talk them out of being a police officer, given what you see sometimes on the news media and this demonization of law enforcement?
Yes.
We don't experience that in West Bloomfield so much, because most people in West Bloomfield, they know that they have a lot of trust and confidence in
the good relation.
Correct. And that's because we're so embedded in the community.
Yes.
We see each other, we know each other so well because we all go to the same community events.
Yes.
And so we're a partnership with everybody. All of our houses of worship, all of our hospitals, all of our schools, all of our community organizations. We partner with everybody. And so they know us, they know me, they know the deputy chief, they know all of our leadership, and they know that we're part of the community, that we're not an adversarial force, that we're there to be of service to them, because that is really what we are there. We're to be of service to you and the community. Yes, we have a role in the community to enforce laws, and sometimes that creates a bit of an adversarial relationship, but we do that without fear or favor, malice or ill will, that we enforce the law, appropriately and courteously, with treating people with respect and dignity. And I insist upon that as chief of police, and that's how we operate the West Bloomfield Police Department.
Honestly, we see in some city and state with defunding the police, and when that happened, the citizen of that state, when they call 911, they need the police, and now they begging to get the police back and increasing. We don't like what's happening. We are with the police department in every aspect, because we know very well they are there what we need, and we cannot honestly live in a city or a state there is no safety, and you provide that safety to us, and we should thank you so much for that, honestly.
Well, look,
You know.
I mentioned earlier, you see some of the things that are being talked about, the defunding the police.
Oh, that's
a radical thing
Radical.
that most communities are not going to support. I just use one example. We had our public safety renewal millage here a year or so ago. It passed with 82%. 82% of the people, even in perhaps a not optimal economy, said yes, we want to continue to fund our police and fire, services. And if we didn't have such strong, if the community didn't have such strong confidence and trust in us, they wouldn't vote like that, for one.
absolutely.
But a lot of the issues that are being talked about right now, some of them have merit. I mean, we look at ourselves and we do a lot of self-reflection and analysis, and we look at what happens in other communities, and we sit back and say to ourselves, could that happen here in West Bloomfield? And we like to sit back and think we have some confidence that it would not, that one of our officers wouldn't treat a citizen the way you see sometimes an officer in another community treat a citizen, or wouldn't use excessive force, or be unfair or partial of how they enforce the law. So so we have a lot of policies. We spend a lot of time training, and of course the leadership is important too. That we insist that officers conduct themselves in a certain way, and I think the combination of all those things helps us with our community relations. There's always a chance that the next call that one of the officers goes on, they're going to mess it up. They're going to do something wrong. We're not ignorant of
But
that.
that's very, very, very low percentage.
It is. Of the millions, tens of millions of arrests that go on in the United States every year, very few of them involve force. And that's I think an important point in narrative that police leadership like myself and others need to address in the community, maybe a little more forcefully, that yes, even one incident of excessive force is wrong. We could watch a video together and go, okay, that's wrong. We're not going to dispute it. All those kind of things. But most often those things don't come in. It is a very small number. So for people to always advocate that these abuses, these excesses are going on a regular basis, well, that factually
They
is.
have their agenda, the radical
Well,
agenda.
they have maybe an agenda they're trying to advance, but factually they're wrong.
Absolutely.
And we can all look, I said, in an individual circumstance, like some of them we've seen on the news recently, and go, okay, that's wrong. You and I aren't going to disagree about it. Even the worst, negative person advocating against the police, we're not going to disagree with them. We would sit down and say, we agree with you. That's wrong. And then what do we need to do to address it? What do we need to do to fix it? We're partners in that discussion. We want to listen to what people have to say. Police departments need to listen to what their communities ask of them.
It's very important.
It is.
To build the bridges of understanding between each other. And thanks God in Michigan, starting with the Detroit Chief James is doing a great job.
Yep.
And all of you, honestly, we proved to the whole nation that state of Michigan and all the cities in the state of Michigan have excellent, excellent law enforcement. Tell me, what do you need in a person? If I want to apply for the job, do I have to be a college graduate? Do I have to go to a training? Tell me.
The hiring standards and conditions are probably, every department is different to some extent. We do require a minimum two years of college, so you have to have at least an associate degree.
How about community college?
Well, yeah, it could be a 2-year degree of a community college. That's fine. It doesn't necessarily have to be in law enforcement or criminal justice. Again, we looked to diversify. We have people with business backgrounds, a psychology background, and liberal arts backgrounds, and not everyone, when they went to college, at the time they went to college, thought, I want to be a police officer. That calling came to them maybe later in life. So, but a minimum 2-year college, and yes, they have to go through and be certified as what we call, under the Mission Commission on Law Enforcement Standards, MCOLS, they have to be certified, have already put themselves through one of the regional police academies.
Right.
And that's a bit of a commitment that, because it's about a 16-week program and it costs about $5,000 or $6,000
They
to
have
do
to
it.
pay.
Right, they have to pay that on their own. Now, if they get hired by West Bloomfield, they actually start at a higher wage rate.
What's the higher?
Well, the highest wage rate.
Yes.
I think I sent you that information earlier, but I even have to look it up sometimes. But
for the viewer to know.
I think the top pay after 5 or 6 years is almost $78,000.
Great.
It is. When I started this job 35 years ago, it was like 17 or 18,000 I was making, and I still took the job.
Yeah.
So now after 5 or 6 years, they're making a decent wage. We still have a pension that we give people, a traditional pension, and we have
all the benefits.
Yes, we have a very good benefit program. So but we're always looking for the best men and women that are committed to this profession, and it is a profession. I also, again, when I meet with the new applicants, I asking them if anyone ever tried to talk them out of going into law enforcement. You don't always know whether it'll be a good fit or not. No one's crystal ball is perfect, but this is a profession that you really, 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 one more time, really want to do. And if you don't have that kind of passion about it, you may not be a good fit for this, because you are going to be challenged. Just the hours of work and the time away from your family and working holidays and weekends. Now, many professions do that. We're not the only one, but it is a challenge. And again, the danger involved. And you don't want to minimize the danger. You recall, because you were there at my side when we lost our officer, Patrick O'Rourke, that was shot and killed in the line of duty back in 2012. And you were one of my good friends that stood with me and grieved at the time, and how important that was, and very important to the community. Now, there's 800,000 police officers in the United States, and maybe 150 get killed in the line of duty. So the odds are pretty, in your favor.
One is too many.
Exactly. People sit back.
We need them.
People always sit back and think, I always mention to people that whatever you see happen in a big city like Detroit or New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles, it happens in West Bloomfield. Just a whole lot less, thankfully.
Yes.
But even police officers get killed in communities like West Bloomfield. It's still a dangerous job. And there's a concern that because of the tension right now in the country, that danger is increasing.
True, but as we know, the state of Michigan and the city of West Bloomfield is completely different. We don't have the radical. And the citizen of West Bloomfield, not even 2% of the radical of those people, they go against the police department and they burning the precinct and all that. So thanks God, we have that good relation between the citizen and the police department. If somebody, and of course we broadcast all over the nation, if somebody, for example, in Washington, and here, and he's a police officer, or in some area like Seattle, or New York, where's the problem? Can he apply to come and
yes, they can.
Part of West Bloomfield?
Through the MCOs, again, the state standards, who licenses at the state level.
Because he's a police officer.
Right, they can do, there's a procedure they go through MCOs to get their certification transferred here to Michigan. You still have to jump through a few more tests and a few things to get certified here, but it's probably a little easier for someone who is certified. So yes, we have hired officers from out of state, from Texas.
Different city instead of Michigan.
Correct, they come here. Look, in West Bloomfield, thankfully, there's a few people that we've hired over the years that thought the grass was greener somewhere else and went somewhere else. Sometimes they went to a federal agency or the state police or something like that. But most officers that we hire, we're what I call a destination department. That once they come here to West Bloomfield, that they know that they're in a good department that is well funded, that provides a lot of training, that is well supported by the community.
Yes.
And that it has good working conditions that are probably, it's a competitive market. We're all looking for the best men and women, and there's only so many that are willing to do this job. So we're competitive with Detroit, we're competitive with Sterling Heights, yes. We're competitive with Warren, we're competitive with Farmington Hills. And so we have to be competitive, not just wages and benefits, but working conditions and opportunities within the department. We don't think of ourselves as being a big police agency. There's about 600 police agencies in the state of Michigan, but over 200 of those agencies don't have 10 police officers.
Yeah,
we have 82 police officers, and we're probably in the top 30 agencies in the state of Michigan. And yet we think we're not that big. So there's 700 and some big, smaller than us, yes. Because you get outside the Detroit metropolitan area, departments get to be very small. Yes, Sterling Heights is bigger. Yes, Warren is bigger. Yes, the state police is bigger. Yes, the Oakland County Sheriff is bigger. Yes, Southfield is bigger. Farmington Hills is bigger. but not too many more than that are bigger than West Bloomfield.
But honestly, I lived 35 years in West Bloomfield, and I feel very safety.
Yeah.
I feel, I look at the media and I saw the other cities and other states, and we said, thanks God what we have in West Bloomfield. That relation between the department and the citizen of West Bloomfield is excellent.
Well, it goes a lot also to the beliefs that the citizens have. Everyone wants to get along. Again, it's a diverse community, but we don't have friction between the members of the community.
Yeah.
The Arab and Chaldean members get along with the Jewish members, get along with, we have a large Japanese population in the town. West Bloomfield probably has the second or third largest number of Japanese residents in the state of Michigan. It's a very diverse community. And you go to the high school and you see how many nationalities and ethnicities are represented there and all the different languages that are spoken. It's truly a remarkable American melting pot, which we're very proud of. And we brag about a little bit, but it does take some work sometimes. And it takes work within the community, for us to be embedded in the community.
Understanding their culture, and each one have different culture.
Correct.
Yes. Well, if you could give me 1 minute, Chief, message to the Middle Eastern. That's where we broadcast to the Middle Eastern community, and we are so proud that West Bloomfield is one of the hub and the important hub of the Middle Eastern community in the state of Michigan.
And we're always happy to partner with Middle Eastern American TV and Radio. You're one of our best partners in the community. We serve you and everyone in the community. So please never feel afraid to call us, and we'll offer you any kind of help that we want. And I know you always invite me every year to maybe come by and do a holiday message. Maybe we're on it right now, but blessings to everybody over all these holidays that we're experiencing. And it seems like it's a tough time in America right now, but America is a promise to everybody, and we work together. We'll work through our problems, and I'm confident that this time won't be any different than any other time. It's work, and you have to work to be an American. And it's how important it is, but it's a promise made to everybody, and it's a remarkable experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all your service to the community.
Thank you very much.
Viewer, that was my interview with Michael Patton, the Chief of Police of West Bloomfield. I lived 35 years in this city, and honestly, the safety that we felt, the relation that we have between the organization and the citizen and the police department is second to none. And please, when you see a police officer, go and shake his hand. He is there working for your safety, and appreciate, especially when you see in different city, different state, all the radical doing and putting the police down. They are there. Believe me, those people, when something happened to them, the first thing they do, they call 911 and they're looking for the police. And thanks God we have a police department in many cities in the state of Michigan, and especially in West Bloomfield. So please appreciate what they're doing for us, and shake his hand and thank him for a great job he's doing. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.